Today we're going to be going over how to prep your subfloors and how to remove the rust. We're going to be telling you what we did, why we did it, how we did it, and how much it cost, and the tools that we used. Hey there, I'm Lisa.
I'm Zach.
And we're Pause to Travel. Thanks for joining us today. Today, this is our first video in our build series of what we did and why we did it. We're going to be looking at how we did our demolition of our bus and how we prepped our floors to prepare to put our subfloor in. Zach, can you start by telling us how we did our demo and why we did what we did?
Why, yes, I can, Lisa. So, when we bought our bus, the gentleman we bought it from, he took out most of the seats for us. We still had a few in the front here and one in the back. They were quite the pain to get out. I had to be under the bus with a wrench, and Lisa had to be on top with a socket wrench, and we just worked our way until we got them out. Those very long lag bolts that were in there. After we got the seats out, we were finally able to fully sweep up the floor a little bit and get some of that dust off. Then we moved on to the luggage racks that were actually in our bus.
Because we had an activity bus.
Yes, because we have an activity bus, and the luggage racks just came out way too far and took up too much headspace. And since we're not doing a roof raise, we just wanted them gone, and we needed to get to the ceiling anyways. After the luggage racks,
yeah, and those, we have rivets or what did we use? What did we have in our?
They were mostly screws, but just like everywhere else on our bus, you got a whole bunch of screws and then just randomly they'll put a rivet.
Yeah,
so we had to get that off, and we just used the angle grinder for that.
And then after we got our luggage racks out, we took out our air conditioning units.
Yes, we had 2 air conditioning units.
They were huge.
It was like right here and then one way over on the other side, and that was quite the process.
Careful with the Freon.
Yes, careful with the Freon. It was basically a mix of the drill, the angle grinder because there were rivets, and channel locks to get all the and all of Lisa's muscles to rip it down, because there were certain ones that didn't want to come off at all. So yeah. She just
sheer power
ripped it right out.
After we took out the AC, we did the fun part of removing the ceiling panels.
Disgusting part. So dusty, nasty, and just needed to happen.
Especially for our bus, because we actually do still at this time, we haven't fixed them yet, have a couple of small leaks in our roof. Mainly they were just empty holes that they put a hole to drill something, but then they never drilled. So
yeah, for the emergency exits in the ceiling, there's like a couple extra holes there that they didn't put a screw in or something. So we felt it necessary to take out the old insulation and ceiling. That way we can properly fix it and insulate later.
And a pro tip for when you're doing your ceilings, make sure to wear a face mask.
And glasses.
And glasses, yes, because the insulation gets everywhere. Our insulation, we had some areas of it that were just black, and it was supposed to be like an orangey yellow color.
Yeah.
So we're really happy we took it out because it just wasn't fresh up there anymore. Our bus is a 98, so our bus is very old. After we removed the ceiling panels,
we started on the subfloor, ripping it up. We started in the back section and then worked our way forward, but we stopped right before the cab area, the driver's area, because we didn't want to remove the seat yet.
The driver's
seat yet, since we knew we were going to be having to take it to the mechanic soon. And to remove the subfloor, we had a small pry bar, a 4-foot crowbar, and what else do we have? More of Lisa's muscle, yes.
An angle grinder we used.
Yes, because some of the nails were still in the floor and they just ripped right out of the plywood. it was disgusting as well because of all the leaks. It was needed as well, and gave us the opportunity to see how much rust we had under the floor, which thankfully was not that much.
It wasn't compared to some other buses that we've seen. However, I am happy we took it up because the plywood, it was just crumbling as we were taking up the old plywood just because it had just water that had water locked in it and just rotted the wood.
And it helps that where we were in Daytona, they allowed bulk trash pickup with no extra charge.
Yes, we could put anything out in front of our house the size of a queen mattress, and they would take it for free.
And it could be stacked 3 feet high and no extra charge. It was awesome for the removal. Just took about like a week to get rid of the seats and the AC unit. Well, actually, scrappers picked up the AC units, and I think the seats too.
Yep, all our metal they picked up. We kept some pieces, but we knew we were moving, and it wasn't going to be easy to get rid of trash at where we moved. It's very pricey, so we made sure to get rid of everything we could.
Once we got most of the subfloor up, we swept as much as we could to be able to take the bus to Skoolie Swarm, where we had our 4 dogs and us sleeping in the hollow shell.
It was cold that year. That was last year.
It was rainy and cold, and there was a lot of condensation. But it was fun either way.
After that, we swept some more when we got home because dog fur everywhere.
And sand.
And sand.
A lot of sand.
Then we took it to the mechanics, and we didn't get it back for 9 months. You can hear a little more about that in our intro video. After we got it back in the mechanics, that's where we are now, here in Florida again. And the first thing we did when we got it back was remove the passenger heater. That's what I have on our list here. And how did we remove the passenger heater? Actually, I was not a part of that. It was Sean and Zach. So thanks, Sean.
We removed the passenger heater. First, the coolant lines that were here in the bus, we pulled it off of the passenger heater for the back half. First, we took a look and found out we had shutoffs, so it didn't drain the entire coolant system. So we shut off both lines, and then we came inside the bus, put channel locks as tight as we could on the hose, took the hose off, and then had a 5-gallon bucket, drained what was in a 5-gallon bucket, drained what we could into the line, or into the bucket from that line. That way it wasn't the whole system that was going.
Our 5-gallon bucket only filled up about this much too. So not even
per line. So
halfway.
With both lines being done that way, it's all there.
But if you don't have shutoff valves, I've heard some people have like 10 gallons of coolant in their lines. So just if you have shutoff lines, you're not going to have as much.
Yes. And we actually didn't remove it from underneath our steering column area because here we have this right over here. And we have our coolant line still right back here, just capped off. And then it tucks all the way under and around and comes out over here. And since we didn't want to remove
Okay.
All right, so we left it in the steering column area because we didn't want to have to pass it all through and tuck it. So we just bought some 3/4 inch caps to plug them for now. There's still a little bit of coolant in that section, but just not enough to make a difference. It's maybe 3 feet of hose.
And another interesting thing that we did was we actually kept our passenger heater and removed the heater that was in the front to defrost the windows, and we're going to put our passenger heater in our dash.
Yes, because that pushed out a lot more heat, and the fans were better, and the fans were stronger. And we're going to keep the whole defrost set up to where it properly channels upward, but we're going to vent up from what was the passenger heater because it was more efficient than the filthy one that was there.
Yeah,
and
it was
inefficient.
really, really dirty. So then,
bus, please,
okay.
And please, so you can tell where we're cutting. Okay. Okay.
I'm just going to leave that in there. All right. So where were we? We were talking about the buckets.
The dashboard that we tore apart.
Oh yeah.
We are going to have Lisa's stepdad help us with building out a new dash, because we are getting a RV GPS or a truck GPS, and also a TPMS gauge, and as well a backup camera. So we want to just custom build the front end so it works better and more efficient.
So after removing the passenger heaters, we finished removing the subfloor that we had up in the front by taking out our air ride seat, and by just taking up the plywood that was underneath the dashboard area and underneath the actual heater system that was up there.
And that all revealed the rustiest spot we had in the bus.
The rustiest spot.
Which wasn't too bad still.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all.
Just surface.
So after we did that, we did a little bit of sweeping.
Lots of sweeping.
Lots of sweeping. The dust never ends in an old bus. And then after that,
you went and scraped up all the tar edges along the side.
I used a 5-way tool to get up all the tar. It was super easy to come up. You just kind of use some arm muscle, get in there, and then the tar comes right up. After we did that, it was the fun part. Not really. You should wear a face mask. And we sanded down the rust. I just tried to do that and mine's dead.
It's just locked.
Oh.
It's dead.
It's
It just
dead.
came off the charger too. Got to
That's
take
funny.
a look at that. Okay.
Probably not plugged in.
So we decided to go with a 3-inch cup wire brush instead of the
Braided brush.
The braided wire wheel for the angle grinder.
Yeah.
Because our rust wasn't so severe that it was anything but surface rust, and
it was very minimal. And these were so much cheaper compared to the braided wire wheel. The braided wire wheel was like $30, whereas this was around $5 per.
We'll have this linked in the description.
We will have this one linked. So after we sanded down the rust and kind of made it all pretty, got all the loose stuff off.
We made more dust with that too.
So you know what we had to do?
Sweep and vacuum.
After that, we removed. I don't know what that is.
It was like a rubber sound deadening / heat insulating pad on the back. Since we have a pusher, we kind of have the lip back there. You can kind of see it.
The seat looking thing back there.
Yeah, it was about 1 inch of foam and rubber on there.
Yeah. So Zach was removing that actually while I was removing the tar.
I just kind of ripped it up. The foam didn't all come off because the adhesive had 26 years of wanting to stay there.
It was gross.
After plenty of,
we used this to get the foam up and just shred it to pieces because it was so glued down.
There's actually still some foam in there. You can kind of see that. This right here. Right there, that foam that was in there. Tried to do that, but got the foam off, but the adhesive was still there. So after about half a gallon of acetone and using that 5-way scraper again, it all came off. And I realized that I should have been scraping it off and then putting it into a garbage bag, but instead I was scraping it and then flicking it on the floor. And once that acetone dried out of the adhesive, it was just a pile of glue basically that stuck to the floor.
So double the work.
So I felt really satisfied that I was done with the bench, and then I looked down to pick that stuff up and it was stuck to the floor. So now I had to work on the floor. Double the work.
Yeah.
But it's all done now.
After that, we had to make sure that there was no dust on the floor. So we
vacuumed, swept, vacuumed, and then I took a leaf blower to the whole bus with all the windows open, blew it out, let it sit for about 15 minutes so everything that got in the air can settle, and then blew it all out again. Then I let it sit overnight because there was about
It was too late
It
to
was
start
dark.
painting.
Yeah, it was dark. And we didn't want the condensation to mess up the drying of the paint. So we woke up, got out here about like 8 o'clock the next morning, blew it out one more time, waited 15 minutes, even though there wasn't anything that was blowing out at that time, and started with the chassis saver. We decided to go with the chassis saver just to stick down, or to have something that can be painted on top of the rust and treat it. I believe it's called a rust inhibitor or something like that.
I have no idea.
Yes.
We did that one because Chuck Cassidy told us to.
Yes. And that is where we're at now. Our floor is black and sealed up, and we are about to figure out the sheeting for the windows.
So what did it cost to demolish the interior of our bus, from the ceilings to the floors to taking out the rust? It's actually not that bad. We're not including tools that we already have just because we've already purchased them, and most people,
how long we had them for.
Yeah, most people already have their tools, or had some sort of tools. Anyways, the first thing we purchased was the chassis saver for $130. After that, we purchased 2 3-inch wire cup brushes. Those were what we used to shave the rust down. And at the time when we bought them, they were $5.77 each for a total of $11.54. Next, we had to also purchase 4 PVC plugs that were 3/4 inch. They were $2.11 each for a total of $8.44.
And those were for plugging off the coolant lines for the passenger heater.
Correct. And then we bought 3 5-gallon buckets, but we only used 1 5-gallon bucket, so we're only going to put 1 in the total cost, and that was $3.98 for the bucket. Lastly, the cost for bulk trash removal for us was $0 because, like we mentioned, we lived in an area at the time that didn't charge for bulk trash removal. So that actually brings our total cost for our demolition phase and floor prepping to $153.96, not including tax.
Thank you, bulk trash. There was a lot of it. And
Yeah.
the scrappers really liked us too.
They really did.
Yes.
We do have some links to some of the items that we use down below. So if you're going to use them, if you are going to use any of those, click on our links below. We get a small percentage at no cost extra to you.
Yes. Everything that we have described today worked for us. It's not the way to do it. It's a way to do it. There's many ways you can do everything. It's just what worked for us. It's what we had and what we decided to choose to do.
Correct. And if you made it to the end, if you would like to see more, subscribe, like, and share. And also leave a comment if you did something different that worked better, or if you have a tip on how we could have done it differently.
Thank you. We're Pause to Travel.